I want to give you a free mattress first. Seriously, this is no joke. If you need a new mattress, I'm going to give you one that changed my life. Plus, it has speakers built into it. So you're going to watch movies differently. You're going to freaking watch TV shows in a whole new way. You're going to really feel the music you love, really dive into that rain noise to meditate properly. It's called the Vibrasonic mattress. Not only does it like keep you cool when you get hot and have like an adjustable base so you can literally reach zero gravity, it aligns your spine, dude. It also is a giant speaker, so you can build a whole surround sound system around it or connect it to your existing one. So if you want one for free, just scan this code, okay? Merry Christmas. Reggie Watts is here.
Hi.
Hey, man.
Hi, I'm Glarf Martinson.
Oh, hello.
Hey, I'm the same.
Hey, you are the same.
I'm Zach.
We are the same.
Nice to meet you. Reggie Watts, entering the room. The couch belongs to you, man.
This one?
It's an honor to have you here.
Yes, it's a good to be here as well.
Yeah, everything's there. Headphones. You can move the mic till you're comfy.
You could also
No
take
way, it
the
has to stay exactly like that. That's your job. No, just kidding.
you could also take the visitor pass off. You don't need to wear
Oh
that.
no, I mean, people need to know that I'm a visitor. No, I'm not permanently a part of this.
No, it's a tiered system here.
Yeah, they'll be like, "No, he's hired. You're working for them." It's like, no, I'm a visitor, man.
No, make it clear.
Yeah.
I like the shoes.
Oh, thank you.
Sick.
Yeah, little Speedland action.
Really cool.
Portland, Oregon company.
Very, very cool.
Really cool, yeah. Yeah, they're good. They made them for, well, they custom made these for me just as a surprise when I did my show in Oregon. So I was like, wow, that's so sweet. Thanks, guys.
Can I ask, like, when you meet people that have a connection to your art and to what you make, what is like, do you ever ask yourself why?
I mean, like, why is there that connection?
Yeah, why are they connected to you? What is it about what you do that you put out into this universe that they feel deeply understood by?
That's a good question. I think all it is, as all great art, it inspires us. It reflects something that we resonate with in ourselves and that we want to do more of, or something that we just really love about ourselves that we want strengthened or amplified in a way. And I think people, when they come across something that activates that, they're like, oh, I love the way you said that, or I love that thing that you do, or I love that style of the thing that you do. It inspires them to know that there's more of that. There's an abundance of that. And I think, like, people, whatever, works of art, people, coalitions, things like that, they inspire people to keep going, to keep moving in that direction because there's hope. I think. That's not over dramatized.
No, it is a beautiful way of looking at something that maybe on the surface could be seen as just so, I don't know, like maybe flippant or casual is the right word, but the reality is, like, what you do isn't that. But from my understanding, your style is it's improv. So can you explain to me how you enter into a set outside of, like, knowing the tools that you have at your disposal? Like, do you have an end in your mind?
No, not really. I'm conveniently underprepared. I think for me, it's I like going in blind. I like most situations going in blind. I like showing up somewhere, not knowing much about what's going on, and just doing it. And because I like rapidly understanding the situation. That's part of what I get off on. And so that's fun. And then while you're in it, and while I'm in it, I'm trying to pick up on what is this thing? What are the vibes here? Like, what does it want to be? What are the possibilities? If it's a lineup of other comedians, I watch the comedians before me. I sit out in the audience. I hang out in the green room, say hey to everybody, but then I immediately go to the front of house and I usually watch the comics. And then so I'm watching on what they're doing, the energy that the audience is reflecting back, and then I just take that totality and I try to distill it into something that I can reflect back to the audience.
It's really interesting because when other do you think it's a sign of a good comedian who has the ability to reflect to their environment as opposed to just sticking to their set exactly?
I appreciate it when comedians acknowledge the space that they're in and the reality that they're in, and then they do some audience work, or they have a conversation with the audience, or they pick up on something that they heard, earlier, the audience doing. I think that that's great because it brings the show for their set. It makes people relate to the comedian a lot more. which increases the trust in what their material is going to be about, and a trust in the audience knowing like, oh, this comedian cares about us. So okay, so that's out of the way. So now we know that. Now we can be even a little bit more comfortable, which makes them more likely to laugh at the material that they're going to come up with. So in a way, it's kind of a selfish technique to use as a performer. But if you're commenting on other things that have happened throughout the night, it brings the whole night together as a whole event. So if you have like a lineup of comedians, like for instance, last night I was at UCB Franklin, and Carmen Esposito went on before me and just slayed, but had this whole thing about, I was walking down the street today. She started like that. She's like, I know a lot of comedians say that, and sometimes they mean 3 months ago, but I mean actually today. And then when I came out to do my set, I did some dumb stuff at the beginning, and then I said, so I was walking down the street today, and everybody just lost it. I didn't say anything for about a minute. People were just laughing for a minute. And those types of things, if you pay attention, those are great ways to bringing the whole night together as a rounded experience. People are like, oh, it's cool. It was all interconnected.
But are you even thinking about doing that beforehand?
When I hear it?
Yeah, or does
No.
it just naturally happen?
No, it just naturally happens because you're on stage, and I'm sure it's triggered by just being on stage.
Yeah.
And like, that's the same stage that I heard that thing, maybe that has something to do with it. But I think it just kind of comes to you. It's, when you decide to allow yourself to improvise on stage as a consistent method of expression, over time, you almost get this bank of extra time that exists outside of the real time thing that you're doing. So you get like this bank of ideas that just kind of go, it's like a quantum tunnel. It just like suddenly appears in your pathway, and you're like, oh, this idea, and then you just do it. And it's an amazing feeling when it happens, because sometimes it just comes out and you're not intending it to be. Half the time, some of the stuff I say, I'm not intending it to be really hilarious. I know it's dumb, but I don't think it's going to be hilarious. And sometimes I'll put something out there and suddenly everyone's laughing so hard, and I'm like, oh, wow, that's cool. And now how can I build on that? But I wasn't expecting it.
Do you ever tell the same joke twice?
Very rarely. I have structures that I will use. Like, when I show up on a show, I pretend like it's another show, or I pretend I'm in another building, or I pretend that I give a quick historical background on the building that we're in, and it's false. It's like 15 years old when the people who came on stage, like the hosts, and say like, hey, it's our 3rd anniversary or whatever, and I'm like, well, it's our 10th anniversary, whatever, things like that. There are methods, kind of displacement things that I do. Fake languages. So there are like tropes and things, like tools I can go to that I've invented for myself.
And characters that you have.
Characters that I have, or just like, or a character. It's almost like characters aren't, they're almost not characters, they're frequencies. They're like character frequencies. So you tune to that frequency, and there's that character, but it's not necessarily like, I've built this character that talks like this. It's more like, I'm just going to start talking like this, and suddenly all sorts of stuff starts coming to mind, And so I just tune in and then let it go, and it usually runs itself.
When did you realize you had access to those frequencies? Does it go back to high school? Because you were blessed by going to a school that really helped change your life, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, right time, right place.
Right zip code.
Right zip code. Yeah, right zip code, 59405. Yeah, the school system at the time, I mean, it was the late 70s, 80s is when I went to school, up until, college. I graduated in 1990. And, it's like you hear it sometimes, like Gen X or whatever, like you'll see like a meme and it's be like, we basically raised ourselves or whatever, that kind of thing. And it's kind of true. We were left to our own devices like all the time. Latchkey kids come home, parents aren't there, you're popping stuff in the microwave, you're watching TV or whatever.
Freaking cold syrup, yeah?
Yeah. It's just like, okay, well, good luck. Like, have fun. And then no phones, so when you're out with your friends, you're just out with your friends. Your parents didn't know what the hell you were doing. You're just doing stuff.
And also no proof of what you were doing.
No proof. Yeah, totally. And these days parents might be like, that's a nightmare. But back then, that's just how it was. So it wasn't crazy or anything like that. Everybody was doing it.
But do you find comedy from your friends?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the things that we notice together, the things that we laugh about, Yeah, for sure. Not necessarily like at friends or from friends in that way. More like the stuff that we discover collectively that we think is funny. Like I'll use that.
And your high school allowed you to do stand-up comedy?
Well, it wasn't stand-up comedy. It was competitive drama.
That's it.
Yeah. So and I
Wouldn't
think
that be called forensics? Which is the art of public speaking. Most people think forensics is a science, which it is also, but
Yeah.
it's also public speaking.
I didn't know about that. I know that there was speech and debate. That was another thing that you could join. Similar categories, 5 categories, but drama just kind of like made a drama version of those categories. So you had humorous solo, humorous duo, serious solo, serious duo, and physical comedy, like mime, clown, whatever.
And did you take part in all of them?
I only did humorous solo first year, humorous duo the next year. But from that, it's basically stand up. It's like a small scene that you do in humorous solo, and it's not standing up there looking at your jokes or like having a series of jokes and rattling them off, but it is you standing up there by yourself making people laugh. So it's close. And I did I did do some open comedy competitions, and I won a bunch of those, which was really awesome to like win against like, 30-year-old, 40-year-old comedians. I'm sure they hated it.
And did you have a plan when you went up on stage then?
No.
So same exact thing that you're doing today, you still did that.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing.
Sick.
It's just easier that way.
I mean, that's what allows you to get way more than 10,000 hours in on something. And
Completely.
it turns into something. My therapist called it subconscious competence or unconscious competence.
Oh, yeah.
So you're allowed to just do things where you don't even think about it.
Yeah. There's things that are just kind of automated, you know,
Yeah.
and they run automated, and while that's running, you're thinking about the next thing you want to do.
And it's actually run through a filter that you've collected over all the years that you've been doing this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's most of the time I'm thinking about vibes, because I need to make sure that I'm in the right space to create what I'm going to create.
So how does that work when your vibe is dictated by somebody who's sitting at the main desk and doing a show like Late Late?
That's more about being awake and being ready to jump in when you feel like it's time to jump in. So in my experience, I'm just sitting there, I'm listening. The beginning, the opening there was a banter thing that we kind of opened up in the later years where he's at the desk, James is at the desk, and he's talking about random stuff. And there's the head writer, and they're going back and forth. And then I'll chime in, and or he'll ask me a question, that's in the like in the monitor or something like that, and he'll be like, Reg, what do you think about blah blah blah? And I'll chime in. So
You have to listen.
It's like listening, but sometimes I'm not listening. Like we're chatting, and James would purposefully turn to me and go like, "What do you think about that, Reg?" But weirdly, it didn't matter if I wasn't listening or not. I always had an answer, and it was immediate, and it seemed like I was paying attention. So there was no way he could stump me. It was really funny. I'd just be like, "Yeah, I know," and I got really stoned last night. Have you guys tried that? What do you think about that, Reg? I mean, if you had to, I guess. No, why not?
But is that like, does that just get you off knowing that like everybody else thinks that you've listened? And
Yeah, of course. because you know what it is? It's like, it's not, I think it's a healthy self-confidence thing. But for me, doing the Late Late Show, I'm required to do about 1/10 my capability on that show. So I'm barely doing anything.
Does that
on
hurt?
show. No, well, part of it is like I know that I could do a lot more, and I know that I could do a lot more damage creatively. But this is the way the show is, So that's the show. So I'm not bummed in that way at all. I'm like, that's the way the show runs. And in a way, I don't want to create more work for myself on that show because it wasn't my show. So I tried to make sure I didn't create more work for myself. I had it dialed in perfect. I show up 20 minutes before we go on stage. I do makeup. I go on stage, put on a jacket. I don't have to change in any costume. I do the thing. As soon as the show's over, I jump into my car and I'm home.
Going back to the frequencies that you have, that you were able to tune into, when did you even realize that those existed?
I mean, it's probably as far back as when I was playing, Star Wars and G.I. Joe and playing in the dirt with cars. Like, when kids play, you hear them doing voices and sound effects, and it's the same stuff. It's not really any different than that. It's just an extension. It's just you're doing it publicly.
When did you realize you do them well?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I love doing it, and the response from people generally was like, "Oh, that was so, that was great." It's like an immediate response. So you're like, "Okay, well, I'm doing something right," and then just being addicted to doing more of it.
What can sway or what variables exist when it comes to doing improv well? Right? Like, will your mood affect it?
Yes. I mean, yes, 100%. Your mood will affect it. I think, I don't know. I mean, there's also like if I'm doing a show, I'm gonna try to, even if I'm in a bad mood, I'm gonna try to figure out a way to do a good show, and generally it'll put me in a good mood. I only get in a bad mood if I'm not connecting on stage, like, and then I get into my head about that.
How do you know you're not connecting?
It's a feeling where the audience just isn't giving back, and they're not like confused in a good way, like I sometimes like to do with audiences, where they're quiet but they're just confused. It's something different than that. It's more like people are like, what's happening right now? Like everyone's wondering what's going on, and I'm like, I don't know.
Is there something you can do that could bring everybody back?
Usually music will do it. Yeah, if I go into music, if I have whether I have looping equipment or not, I can just go into like an a cappella thing or build a song really quickly on the looper.
When did you realize you were a good enough musician to even do improvise on top of that? Because not every musician can do that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. I don't know. I think it's just so much time. Being an only child, I spent so much time on my own, and I'm always singing. Throughout the day, I'm always singing something, doing a beat, I'm just doing something musical almost always, all day long.
Do you, like a loop, you use Looper, it's really just you.
Mm-hmm.
You have the ability to work with a band, but really, I mean, Comedy Bang Bang was just you.
Yeah.
Your sets are just you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, very cost efficient.
Yeah,
really,
it's true.
Good margins.
Yeah.
Do you remember how you got introduced to a loop pedal or a pad?
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember seeing looping. God, when was it? I think it was a friend at it was a performance art studio in Seattle, and a friend of mine had a Jam Man, which had looping capability, and then another friend was using a Boomerang pedal, which also had a loop function on it, and then my jazz teacher, Jay Clayton, she used a Digitech 16-second delay. I think that's what it's called. And that had also a looping capability. So I was aware of looping, but the first looping pedal I got, it was basically to replace an analog tape delay machine called a Roland RE101. And that ran on quarter-inch tape. So and I was going to go travel to Europe with the band, and I just thought, man, me bringing that big-ass honking box that has this tape, it always breaks, and you always have to repair it, and you have to carry extra tape on you when you travel, and it's heavy, and it's noisy. I remember hearing about a pedal that was coming out, the Line 6 DL4, and it was a delay modeler, so it modeled the RE101. So I immediately ordered one, and another guy in the band ordered one too. And when you set the dials, there's like a map. It tells like, if you want it to sound like the RE101, put this dial at 3 o'clock, put this dial at 1 o'clock. And so you just follow the template, and then suddenly you've got a Space Echo. And it did sound like a Space Echo. It did all the same things, did the same repeat patterns, all that stuff. So I was stoked. And it did have a loop function, but I didn't start using that loop function until many months after the tour.
So you also, how soon after do you shed the band? You find the looper,
yeah,
and then you get rid of the people around you.
Immediately. No, I was just waiting. No, God, what
2002.
Yeah, 2002. Well, I mean, I was in at that time. That was a band called the Wayne Horvitz 4+1 Ensemble. So I was just an instrumentalist in that band. My band Mock Tube is the band that I ended up quitting. But I was in like probably 20 bands in Seattle in the 90s, and the band that I was with the most, the original band I was with, was called Mock Tube. And in 2002, yeah, it's when I kind of decided I don't think I can make a living at music, because the music industry had changed so much, and we'd had so many close calls with big labels. And yeah, I just didn't see a future in it. So I made a tough call, but I thought it was an important call, and then I just wanted to try stuff out on my own.
And were you doing comedy parallel to this the whole time?
I did some sketch comedy, and I was doing some solo gigs here and there. Yeah.
And when do you realize you should mesh the two?
Gosh, I mean, they were always intertwined. There really wasn't a time where I was just doing comedy, and yeah, it was all at the same time, always.
Even in the band?
Yeah, I mean, the band didn't like it, but sometimes in between songs, I would make some jokes or whatever, and eventually the band kind of told me that they didn't like me doing that, so I just kind of cut down on that.
Yeah, it's about the music, man.
Yeah, man, it's about the music, man. They don't want to hear no clown up there.
I'm sure they said exactly that.
Yeah, that's what they said. We don't want no clown up there. That's what. Yeah.
Okay, so by the way, can we hit the chat real quick? Terrence would like to know, I hear you talking about improv. Do you think loopers are the future? And do you think it pulls from inverted, I don't know what they're saying here, but do you think loopers are the future? I mean, I think they're the present, dude. Look at Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, they are the present. I mean, yeah, many people, KT Tunstall and I don't know, Imogen Heap, Beardy Man,
yeah.
all these. There's a bunch of loopers out there.
Imogen Heap uses the gloves.
She uses the gloves, yeah, the little MIT gloves.
Sick.
They're really great.
Ariana Grande does the same, uses those gloves.
Oh, does she?
Yeah.
Oh, so she started using them? All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Cool. I don't know. I don't know if they're for me. I mean, Imogen showed me, and I tried them at her house, but I don't know if they're for me. It's too much gear.
That's pretty sick, though.
I love it. No, it's sick. It's like I love all my friends that are loopers. Like I love it, but a lot of times they use too much gear. I don't like having a lot of gear. I like having an instrument that is self-contained. So the looper is the instrument. So the RC505 Mark II. It's not a perfect looper. There is no perfect looper. They're all kind of shitty. And the reason why they're shitty is because they're too complicated and they're too much menu diving to get to basic functions that could have just been put directly on the instrument. So I think looping is current. I think looping will get better. I'm hopefully going to work with Teenage Engineering and finally design a looper that is good for loopers.
Sick.
Right now, we don't have a lot of choices with looping.
You have this attachment to technology, and if it doesn't exist, building it, correct? I mean, like
Sure.
you have a deep interest in AI. You believe it's going to help people, not hurt us.
I love AI. It's great. Even if it ends up messing everything up, it's great. Because we need a change. Like, what are we going to do? Continue down the path we're headed? We're not headed in a good direction.
Are you one of the people who believe that eventually the world or the country could be run by like giant AI computers that just take temperature checks of society?
I wouldn't mind. I mean, as long as the human well-being is the primary value.
Amen.
Then I think it's going to be okay because. People have the wrong idea about AI already. They're thinking it's taking my job. It's doing, it's ripping off people. And all this. It's like it's not doing any of that shit. And not only that, it's not doing anything that a human isn't prompting it to do at this point. So there is that fear is kind of a moot point. And I understand why people have fears because it sounds scary. Oh, there's a thing, and it's conscious, kind of, not really, but it's got, it can do stuff. I get it. But for me, the problem with humanity is the biases that we have and the emotion that we get and the ambition that we have. Those are the things that make legislation incredibly slow and why we're not making great decisions because it takes too long and the expiration date is gone on the correct time to respond to something. So I believe that AI doesn't have any of those limitations and can just make the most efficient choice. And again, as long as human well-being is the base of the equation, I believe that it can. We're going to start seeing. I mean, California's already talking about it now about using AI in like small-scale legislation to speed up things, and I think that that's great. I just think like we look at politics now, and it's so gamified based off of ambition. People are already thinking about getting reelected as soon as they're elected, which is stupid and not useful.
It's so correct. And by the way, ambition is attached to emotion, right?
Yes.
And selfishness attached to emotion.
Mm-hmm.
All the things that are wrong with the system is attached to emotion because
Totally.
you like to hope that the people you elect have the ability to be selfless civil servants.
Yes.
And ensure a present and a future where just like talent being equally distributed, opportunity is equally distributed.
Yes.
But
Yes.
their emotion gets in the way of that.
Almost always. And then you get like, the influences of, it's like it's not really a political statement to say this. It's just a true thing. It's like, of course, if someone gets elected and you've got their ear and you're part of a company that represents like, a piece of legislation they need to make their business a little bit better, of course, you're going to lean on them a little bit. And then they might listen to you, or they'll say, hey, I've got like 70,000 voters. That would be, and all that wheeling and dealing, which again, should have nothing to do with
The general well-being.
with people going like, okay, how can we make life best for as many people as possible? And am I cooperative? And am I humble enough to work with anybody that has good ideas? Basic ideas, but and the basic, I think those are the basic elements that anybody elected should have. But of course, that's not going to happen. That's not the way it's designed at this point.
No. And we do not view people as assets, right? Like, dude,
That's true.
I think the greatest asset that a country has are its people.
Yes.
Right? And what we create and what we contribute and what we bring to the table every morning of every day. That
Yes.
should be at the forefront of every single decision that is ever made. And if we don't realize that people matter the most, and like with that is putting people above profits, et cetera,
Totally.
we're gonna be in for a really rude awakening,
I know, it's like it's just gonna, if we keep going down that path, we're just gonna get backed up into a corner, and like a bunch of terrible crap is gonna happen, and then we'll be like, I don't know, and it's like, yeah, you did know, you knew decades ago, but you just didn't want to listen because, either you thought that you were fighting for the rights of a corporation, which is like most of when I hear all the like crazy arguments being made by people about why they are so against helping people of their own country, their fellow countrymen. They don't know it, but they generally are representing the interests of corporations. And again, corporations are just made of people, so corporations can do good. But in general, if they're influencing politics, probably not up to good. And in doing so, but what you said is completely true. Like when I drive down the streets in LA and I see these huge homeless encampments, these unhoused encampments, like if those people weren't, what would happen if they weren't in survival mode? What if they were able to think clearly about ideas that they have for helping their community around them? Like what if they were able to do that? Like investing in your brain trust, which is your population, you're missing out on all these things. But of course, it doesn't make sense to a company that wants to make profits like just uncontrolled. They just want that number going up. That's the only thing they care about. So the board is like, well, we're not going to reward you if you're doing good things for the community because that's not making the numbers go up. So we're not going to support that. Like that doesn't make any sense at all. But if human well-being were part of the value system of current capitalism, then we'd have a value system to look at on the graph as well. And that could change everything. So I don't know. For me, AI, you get rid of the dum-dums that that shouldn't be making decisions.
You get rid of the emotion.
Yeah, get rid of the emotion and like give other people opportunities to get involved in helping to solve problems.
What are you thinking?
What about AI and music? Because that's a big thing these days.
Well, music's stupid, so whatever. No, I mean, yeah, I have some friends that are like, oh, what about like, soundtrack stuff or audio logos or, these jobs that composers have and so forth. I mean, yeah, it's probably going to be used, but still, again, someone has to prompt these AIs. So you still have a creative aspect involved in it. I guess you could have an AI just go analyze all the music that for interstitials of sitcoms in the 90s and formulate an all new score for this type of a show that runs at this many minutes with these commercials and all that stuff. And it could do it. But ultimately, I also think people just like working with people, and it's just faster when you work with pros that know what they're doing. It's just faster and easier, and also more, I don't know, ethical. I think like if composers want to use AI to help expedite their jobs, that's totally fine. I'm not really worried about AI taking over creativity. I just don't think that is, I don't know, I'm just not worried about it. I'm not worried about it for myself. I'm not worried about it. I mean, anything can be used nefariously, of course, but I just don't think in the end that that's what it's going to be used for.
How would you define the type of comedy you do?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's trickster, benevolent, social hacking, disorientation, stupidness.
AI can never duplicate that.
I don't think it could. I don't think it could. It can in an AI way, in like a not a I'm understanding why I'm doing this kind of a way. Also, I don't know if AI will have access to the way that the human what is happening inside of the human mind as it's coming up with ideas or things are occurring to the mind and what you do with them creatively.
What is happening in your mind when you're in an improvised flow?
I don't know. I mean, it's like I'm up there and I'm just kind of talking and I'm listening to myself, and then I'm kind of making decisions to either change it or to move on to something else. And then I'm just so I kind of give myself prompts to change to other things, but then when I change to other things, then I'm just listening again for the ideas that are out there for that change, that supports that change. So it's a lot of listening, basically.
And when you're in the studio, because you did release, and it's considered an album, right?
Wow, which one?
You just released
this
something.
EP?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
an
with
EP.
Wahada?
Sorry.
Yeah, an EP. Yeah, we released an EP. Yeah,
Do you do an improvised approach there as well?
yeah. So I go to John's house, my writing partner, the producer, and yeah, he has a beat. I mean, it's a partial idea, or maybe we generate something from the ground up. You know, he'll just give me some drums. I'll do a quick drum beat, and then like we loop that, and I do a bass line. He adds like something on top of it, and then I just improvise a bunch of singing and lyrics on top of that, and then we're done. And then we move on to the next track.
I mean, so like, how do you know it's done?
He's usually the guy that's good at finishing that stuff. So luckily, I get to just be an idea person.
Well, you do more than one take?
Not really. I'll do like a couple runs at it, and then he'll kind of choose what he wants to use. And then if there's a pattern, like a chorus, something that sounds like a chorus or a hook, I'll double it. I'll go back and I'll double it, or I'll harmonize with it.
Have you ever written anything, a lyric or a joke?
Oh yeah, I've written a lot. I mean, my band Mach 2, everything was written. Yeah, I wrote all the lyrics.
So it's been decades.
Yeah, it's been decades. I haven't really written in a very, very long time. Yeah, it's been a very long time. I mean, I don't know. I guess I kind of wrote. There was this last song performance I did on the Late Late Show with a fictional band that I created called Eternal Demise, and we wrote everything like the night before, and we just had a structure for the song, and you know, we ran it a couple times, and so I kept a couple things. So it was kind of written. It was like partially written.
What about Fuck Shit Stack?
Fuck Shit Stack was an improv, but I did it so much it started to write itself. And then it just kind of solidified. And then I just did the version that I knew at that time for the recorded version that everybody knows, or the video that they know. So it wasn't necessarily like I was like, aha, it's complete. It's more like, well, this is where it's at. And like, well, we're going to use that for the video. That was the vibe.
But didn't you used to, I think you said you used to rewrite Weird Al songs when you were younger to learn how
That's true.
What did you learn from that? And I guess you didn't continue with it if you're not writing anything.
No. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I loved it because it was like, oh, okay, well, he did a thing called, I think, Eat It, and then I changed it to Clean It. Not very smart, but I changed to Clean It, and everything was about cleaning, and I don't know. It was something fun to do. I love changing the lyrics to things, and I love, singing songs incorrectly. It's a blast. All my friends are like, whatever, and I'm like, just making up syllables and stuff. And people were like, no, it's like this. And I'm like, I know, but I can't.
By the way, you can listen to Reggie Watts' music. It's waiting for you on Amazon Music. We'll probably throw a link in the chat, or you'll find it in the description or the comment section or wherever. It will be there.
It's true.
What are you thinking?
Well, why was it time to write a book about your own life?
Well, I wanted to make a series or a movie based on my high school experience.
I thought this book could be a movie.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, that's
Yeah.
good. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and that was really kind of the reason I wanted to, document, what I've done that kind of accumulated to be who I am today. But I thought it was a better chance. My management was saying the same thing. Like, if you have a book, then it's easier for a studio to go, maybe we can make that into a series or a movie or something like that. But I'd love to do that.
Interesting, because like you were born in Germany, but you really grew up in Great Falls, Montana.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And you spoke French. You didn't know English when you came.
I didn't know English. No, I spoke mostly Spanish and French.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Do you still speak those two languages fluently?
I don't speak Spanish fluently, but I do understand it when people are speaking it. I can kind of get through it. French, I know much, much better.
You pull from both for your gibberish.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That. But also Germanic net languages and Dutch and, some like Arabic sounding stuff. Yeah. It's a mixture of a bunch of different languages.
So is that like strategic? Like, do you listen to things knowing that eventually you can funnel through you and into this?
I mean, yeah. I pay attention to it, and I'll repeat things if I'm listening to something and someone says a word and it's said in an interesting way. I'll repeat it a few times, just kind of like just load it into the bank, I guess, and then it might come out later. Who knows?
What is it like being 8 years old in Montana, not knowing what people are saying around you?
Well, I would have been like 4. I think I learned English. I started speaking English probably more fluently at about like 5.5 or something like that. 6.
Oh, got it. Why did I think you came here when you were 8?
No, I can't. We moved in when I was at 3:30 or 4 p.m. is when we moved. That's how I
That's a reasonable
delineate
time in
age.
the afternoon.
Yeah. I was around that age. Yeah, because I became a U.S. citizen at age 5, I believe.
Big deal.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal.
It's fun. It's fun. It was fun. It was fun to not, to just be a different person back then. It just worked out great for me. I loved it, and no one really had a problem with it.
And now we reap the rewards.
I guess so. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know what's next, but we'll see.
We'll also throw a link in the description or maybe in the chat to grab the book. You like the book?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. Like, I think a lot of people got to know you through James Corden,
Yeah.
and they didn't really know who you were, where you came from.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of people that once you're on the show, and especially now, can go back and actually learn more about you. Because like you said, you only showed off like 1/10 of what you could actually do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you feel like your audience grew after the show because you were introduced to you were in front of on everyone's TV every night?
I think so. Yeah, there was not a ton, not as much as you'd think, but yeah, definitely. When I travel around the airports and things like that, you get like people working there or just people coming up and going like, I used to watch it. It's like, I'm so sad that you guys are off the air, and I used to watch you all the time. Really nice things like that. So it definitely got me out there. But I also think like whatever I do when I'm not on that show, that was still kind of the same crew that tuned in for that, because I think if other people tuned in, I think I definitely gained fans for sure, but not as much as you'd think.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's an interesting mainstream crowd.
yeah. It is. It's weird. I don't know. It's
Dude,
weird.
It's people like my mom. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's a different crew.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends' parents that have been listening to my audiobook, and they, they're into it. So it's cool. I'll take anybody who wants to be interested in what I do. I love it, but I never expect, I just don't try not to expect much. I just try to put it out there and see who responds. But I do make an effort to be always in the underground and to try to stay in the underground and be there for all my friends, coming up with their various awesome projects.
Why'd you take a gig like Late Late?
The money. No,
Could be true. Nothing wrong with that.
no. Partially, yeah, partially for sure. But also, they just let me do whatever I wanted to do. Like James was like, if you want to put together a band, you put together a band. You structure it the way you want to structure it. And I asked for a bunch of conditions, and they were like, sure. So, and I talked to Sarah Silverman about it. I talked to a bunch of people, but she was kind of like the last person on that I kind of consulted, and she's just said, like, ask for everything you want, and if they give it to you, consider doing it. And so they did. They gave me everything, all the stuff I wanted. And I was like, well, I guess I'm moving to LA, and I'm glad I did it. It was great. It's good to give my friends jobs, and it was good to have people in the comedy community and, people from where I grew up see like someone that they know doing something like that. I think it was helpful in that way as well. And it furthered my message, and I got to meet some incredible people.
Y'all built an amazing show.
I think so. I think they did. Yeah, I think so. I think they were very conscious about what they were doing, and it felt like a good spirit. And everyone who would come through, the guests who would come through, always talked about how much they loved doing the show because the spirit and the energy there is really good.
Was it weird? I mean, was that your first like job, like a 9 to 5, have to be at work every day?
No. I mean, I had, I worked in a health food store and movie theaters, but it was my, I guess, most regular job because I was also Comedy Bang Bang would shoot for, I don't know, 2 months or something like that out of the year for each season, I think. So we did that, but that was like semi-regular. This was year-round for 8.5 years. So yeah, that's the only job I've had like that for sure.
Damn. I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, you should try out the book, grab it. Great Falls,
Grab it.
Montana, Fast Times, Post-Punk Weirdos, and A Tale of Coming Home Again. Try the book out and also listen to all of Reggie's music is waiting for you on Amazon Music.
I just wanted to ask, how was the news broken to you that the show is coming to an end?
I think James came up to me and said like, "Fuck you, you're the fuck out of here." And I was like, "Fine." And then he like walked away and I was like, "No, fuck you." And he's like, "No, I said it first." And that was it. And I was like, "Well, seems like that's about a year and then we'll be out of there." No,
Had a good run.
yeah, had a good run. It's like, thanks, James. You're so what a sweetheart. Sweetie. No, he took the band he came into the band room after a taping, and we all sat in there, and he told us that he decided to leave, and that he basically gave us a year to prepare for that. So he did it the best way you could do it.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Classy.
Classy. Stay classy, Sandy Francisco.
That's it. Reggie Watts, I appreciate your time today.
My pleasure.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, of course.
Reggie Watts, everybody.
Oh, I have one more question.
Oh.
Sorry.
I love this.
Whenever I watch your performances, I'm like, is there an overall message you're trying to get across, or is it just like to almost confuse people?
Oh, I mean, it's definitely to confuse people, but I think the confusion is there to kind of soften the audience. I think the main message is, so it depends on the gig. Sometimes I'll go kind of a little bit more sincere about a message, but I think my main message is, there are solutions to things, and there's no point in arguing and creating otherisms and division and things like that because it's not efficient. If you want the world to get better, you have to be in a solution based mindset, and as opposed to a crisis based mindset, which is always encouraged through media and things like that. And so I think it's that, and love and compassion and acceptance, and try to become a secure individual. Only insecure individuals become bullies because they're dissatisfied with themselves and they need someone to lash out on. It's like, "Oh, you'll do," instead of me being too lazy to figure out my own shit. So I think I have an intolerance for bullies. I have an intolerance for people who are intolerant of others in negative ways. And I think that's probably my main thing. It's like, we can solve problems. We can live in an amazing world. And you can believe what you want to believe, and everybody can believe what they want to believe. We can still get along and, go explore the universe,
Mm-hmm.
That was beautiful. Reggie Watts, everybody. Thanks for hanging out.
Goodbye, everybody. Bye. Prime.